Good morning. My name is Cesar Alfaro, and today I'm going to explain about the importance of the geometry. How do we use geometry in our lives without knowing that we are using geometry? Geometry is one of the most important branches of the math, and that's why I'm going to explain about it in this video. Enjoy it.
Okay, starting with the class. First of all, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's geometry. I'm going to show you guys a PowerPoint presentation, and there we are going to see some images on good examples, and we're going to talk about areas and how do we use geometry in our lives. So I'm going to share my screen, and let's do it. Okay, we have here the importance of the geometry, and I put here that geometry keeps you in shape. So let's talk about what is geometry. Geometry is one of the oldest branches of the mathematics. It is concerned with properties of a space that are related with the distance, with the shape, with size, and related positions of figures. As we can see in these figures I have on the presentation, we see some buildings in which we can see how geometry is around us. I like to compare real life with math because sometimes as students, we ask how this is going to help me in real life. And if we're thinking of going to college and study some degree related with science, definitely we're going to use geometry. If we're not interested in science as humans, we need several things like houses, buildings, streets, cars, cell phones. And I can say to you guys that geometry is definitely one of the most important branches of science. And knowing how it works, we can see the world different. Let's talk a little bit about areas. So these are good examples of the importance of knowing about areas. We have here like a house, we have here like a photo of a city, and in geometry, the area can be defined as the space occupied by the flat shape or the surface of an object. As we can see in the figures, we barely know about areas. When in our homes, for example, in our homes, when we want to buy a new bed and we need to know if our bedroom is big enough to have so many things, and when we want to buy a house and we're a family of five, for example, and we will need a lot of space. So engineers and architects work a lot with geometry. We can see perfect examples in the streets. A city, a city must be geometrically perfect. As we can see, these are so good examples of how designers, architects, and engineers design with simple geometric shapes. The reason I decided to talk about the importance of geometry, it's because we live in a country where we need more people interested in improve our society in what we have, what we need, and in what we want in the future. And if, as we can see here in these cities, we can see, for example, we can recognize some geometric shapes. In this case, here we can see, for example, a circle. Here we can see, if we see here like a triangle, a different triangles, for example, one here, another one here, then we have another one here, and here, of course, we can recognize different squares. We have one here, we have another one here. So this is how the geometric shapes are in our society. Let's continue with what is a geometric shape. Geometric shapes can be defined as a figure or area closed by a boundary which is created by combining the specific amount of curves, points, and lines. Different geometric shapes are triangles, circles, and squares. Those are like the basic geometric shapes that we can have. But before we shift our focus to rather advanced and competitive mathematical concept of geometry and algebra, it is important that you acquire the necessary understanding of the geometric shapes. All of us know about the common shapes in geometry, like a square, a rectangle, and a circle, and a triangle, for example. Here we can, in this house, we can see how we have another one here, a rectangle, we have a triangle, we have a circle, and in here we can see a perfect geometric shape. So now we're going to see some examples of geometry using using these like basic things about trigonometry. So here in the first example, we have a circle. Here we have like a quarter of a circle. This is recognized as the first quadrant. Here we have like a second quadrant. That we have here our third quadrant and the last quadrant. Here in yellow, we have like the half of the circle. We have here just like a quarter of a circle and here another quarter. But what is a quadrant? Well, if we take this piece here, and I'm going to put like this over here, a quadrant, we have here our y-axis and our x-axis, and I draw here like a vector, and I divide this quadrant in 45 and 45 degrees. But we can draw the vectors, or we can divide the quadrants however we want. For example, here I have here a 90 degrees angle. Remember, these are all angles. And here in this second quadrant, I have 45 degrees. If I want to complete the quadrant with all the angles, I have to put here, like here we have another 45 degrees. If we have here a 25 angle, a 25 degrees angle, so if we do like knowing that a quadrant has 90 degrees, and we say that we have 25 degrees, how much do we need to complete all that degrees in the quadrant? So 90 minus 25, it's going to be 65. So in our third quadrant, we have here 65 degrees. And the same with the last quadrant. We have 50, we have 15, and if we have a total of 90 minus 15, we need here 75 degrees. We're going to need here 75 degrees. So that's how we can draw all the angles in a quadrant, or in the four quadrants, knowing that in total we have a total of, if we draw the axis like an example, in total we have 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90. Here I have that, remembering that a total circle has 360 degrees, we can know that each quadrant has 90 degrees. So the total of the circle is going to be 360 degrees. So let's talk about how we can calculate areas. Here I have three different examples of the most simple geometric shapes. In the first case, I have a rectangle. We have a formula for a rectangle to calculate the area. We know that we have to multiply like the base and the height. So doing this simple math, we're going to see that 6 times 8 is going to be 48 meters squared. Remembering that meters times meters, it's going to be, this is simple algebra, it's going to be meters squared. So that's how we can get these 48 meters squared. In the second example, we have a triangle. The formula for a triangle is going to be base times the height times 1/2. So we have a base of 55 meters and we have a height of 25 meters. So we do have to multiply 55 times 25. Then this is going to be 1,375 meters. Then we have to multiply this times 1/2. So we're going to have 687.5 meters squared. And that's how we can get the area of a triangle. And The last example we have is a circle. Remembering this, remember that if we have a perimeter of 20 meters, our radius is going to be the half of the perimeter. But what's the radius? Well, if we have a circle and if we draw a line here, like this is like the total distance of the circle, known as the perimeter. And if we put the point in the center of the circle, and if we draw a vector, we can draw a vector here, we can draw another vector here, or we can draw here another vector. It doesn't matter where we draw our vector. These vectors are known as the radius. These vectors are known as the radius, and the radius, it's always going to be the half of the perimeter. So if we have a perimeter of 100 meters, our radius, it's going to be 50 meters, always the half of the perimeter. If we have a perimeter, for example, of 50 meters, we're going to have a radius of 25 meters. So in our example, we have a radius of 10 meters. If we just have the radius, we can know that if our radius is going to be 10 meters, so remembering that the radius is the half of the perimeter, we can know that the perimeter of this circle is going to be 20 meters. 20 meters. So what's the formula for knowing the area of a circle? The formula is going to be P times the radius squared. Remembering that P is a math symbol, and P is going to be 3.14. P is going to be always 3.14. So in our calculators, we have the symbol of P. So in the solution, we have area equals to P times 10 meters squared. 10 meters squared is going to be 100. So 100 times P is going to be 100 P. And that's going to be like 314.15 meters squared. And if we don't want to use the symbol P, we can do this. We can multiply 3.14 times 10 meters squared, and that's going to be the same, 314.15 meters squared. And that's how we can get all the areas of these geometric shapes. Knowing the simple geometric shapes, we can get the areas of a house, of a building, of a street, because as we saw in the images of the streets, we recognize all these geometric shapes, these simple geometric shapes in houses, in buildings, in streets. So guys, hopefully everything became clear. Thank you for watching.
As we saw in the PowerPoint presentation, we use geometry in our lives without knowing that we are using geometry. Hopefully everything became clear. Thank you for watching this video. Have a great day.